All right, what's up, law firm owners? Nathan Harding here from Yo Media. Today, I want to talk to you about the law firm growth playbook and essentially how to get more clients with digital marketing and share with you one of the biggest problems that I see law firm owners making when they're trying to grow their business through digital marketing. So, I'm going to share my screen and let's get into it. All right, so put together this playbook based on the 10 plus years experience that we have, or that I have personally, running marketing campaigns for law firms using online digital marketing. So the biggest problem is that law firms typically thrive on referrals. So, most of the new business that comes the way of a law firm is from referrals and word of mouth. So people are coming to the firm already pre-qualified and pre-sold that you're the lawyer to deal with because you have been referred from a trusted source. But digital marketing, it changes that game because while referrals are great and they convert into new clients at a very high rate, the issue with them is that it's hard to scale referrals. It's because you have no control over it. You can't just ramp up referrals. I mean, you can get more active trying to ask for more people for more business, but there's a bit of a limit to it. You can't just sort of invest more and crank it up and get a lot more in return. They're take a long time to develop a referral source, and then it's kind of a waiting game to get those referrals. You can be in front of them more often, but it's not like digital marketing where you can really reach a massive amount of people in a very short period of time and get a lot of new business through the door. And so that's how digital marketing changes the whole game on growing a law firm. So as I mentioned, referrals come with built-in trust, but digital leads, they're very skeptical. There's no loyalty there. They'll typically find you online through some sort of search or through some sort of social media channel, but there's nothing beyond that. Maybe they've seen some content from you, or maybe they've read a Google review. There's nothing beyond that that kind of helps build that trust in the same way that a referral has the trust built into it. So today, I want to share with you the exact systems on how to convert those leads that come through your digital marketing into clients. And the big surprise is it's not the same system that you would use to convert a referral. And that's the biggest thing, is that most law firms are treating digital marketing leads the same way they're treating referrals. And a referral is not a lead, it's a referral. Digital marketing leads, completely different. So you've got to treat them differently if you want to win the business. Excuse me. So why do digital leads feel different? This is what we're going to cover off on in this webinar. What's different about digital leads? What makes them feel or act or respond differently? What is the trust gap between you and someone who's just found you online, and how do you bridge that gap effectively so that you can get the lead coming through your door rather than one of your competitors? We're going to talk about the cost of poor intake. So once that lead has reached out to you and said, hey, I'm interested in talking about your business, that's essentially when the intake process starts. So that's now a qualified lead, or it's a lead and you've got to qualify it. And having a poor intake process at that point is a major deal killer that I see a lot of. Building systems for speed and conversion. So as I said, you've got to have a system for how you manage referrals and when they come to you, and then another system for how you manage leads from your digital marketing or any type of marketing where you're sending a message out to a cold audience, that is an audience that has no idea who you are, and they're sort of coming to you like, hey, I saw your thing online, want to have a chat. How do we build a system to take those people through from being initially a lead right through to a new client? And then I'll share with you some key metrics to track to ensure that all of this is working and you're on the right track. All right, why do digital leads feel different? Referrals know you or your reputation because they've come from a trusted source. Digital leads don't. With the power of Google and social media, people can shop around, they can check out a lot of stuff about you before having to reach out. So if someone comes to your website and it loads super slow, or you've got a couple of bad Google reviews and not many good ones, or your social media hasn't been updated in years, they're going to keep shopping around. They probably won't reach out to you. But even if they do reach out to you, they're going to also probably reach out to a bunch of others as well. Like there's a stat there from one of the law institutes that 70% of legal consumers contact multiple firms before they decide who to go ahead with. Now, there's a key point in that sentence. It's they contact multiple firms. So they attempt to reach out to multiple firms. Keep that in mind as we go through this, because contacting and having a consult, completely different things, obviously. And I'll share with you why that's important in a minute. And the reality is that your firm is just another tab in their browser. So how do you bridge that digital trust gap? Or what is the digital trust gap? Well, as I mentioned, referrals have built-in credibility. Digital leads, zero trust. And you got to earn that trust fast. And you can only earn that generally without talking to them. So you don't get a chance to show up in front of them and present the best version of you. That's what's obviously done at a consult. But how do you create trust when you don't get a chance to speak to or show up in front of that lead? You've got to have a bunch of things in place online that can build that trust. So what are they? Well, the first thing is social proof. So you want to have a lot of good Google reviews and some good testimonials, both on the website. But the strongest social proof comes from third-party websites like Google, like Facebook. If you see a review on Google or Facebook, you know it's got a lot more credibility than if you see a review on a law firm's website, because they put the review there. So you're not going to see any one-star reviews on a law firm website. So most people will place a lot more emphasis and credibility on third-party review websites. So you want to make sure that you've got a lot of 5-star reviews across as many platforms as you can. So when people start to look around to see, is this firm worth reaching out to? They're going to see your 5-star reviews. They'll, like most people, probably just sort by your lowest reviews first, and they'll check out what's the worst things that people have said about this firm. I don't know if you do that. I do that. Every time I go to Google and I want to check out a vendor or a business, I'll typically sort their reviews by lowest first, because I want to see what's the worst things people say about them. And people are smart. Like, you've probably done it. You read through the 1-star reviews and you're like, that person sounded a bit crazy, or that was a little bit off topic. And, as long as there's not too many, like a couple of negative reviews are normal, you kind of read through it. And, if there's like 20 1-star reviews and they're all talking about the exact same issue, that they're terrible, they rip people off, that's an issue. But if it's 1 or 2 negative reviews, like, they charged me, 40 cents more for a photocopying that I didn't want, or something like that, you can kind of make a call on, all right, well, no one's perfect. They've got a couple of bad ones, but the overwhelming majority are really good reviews. That's what you want to have. And you want to have replied to all those reviews as well. So you want to make sure that anytime someone leaves you a review, good or bad, you reply to it. Quick tangent. One of the things that I get asked a lot of is, can you remove negative reviews? And the answer is yes, but it's super difficult, particularly with Google. A friend of mine owns a company called Removify. Shout out Removify. You can try them to get a Google review off, but it's notoriously difficult. The best bet is to respond to it. Go public with how you handle those leads, because how you handle a negative review publicly can actually, make or break whether people want to do business with you. And if you handle it in the right way, it can actually be a good thing, because you can show people that even if you do make a mistake, which everyone does, that you're going to step up and own it and fix it and make it right. The second thing is how you bridge that trust gap fast is you want a clean, professional website. So you want something that loads quickly, is easy to review both on mobile and desktop, particularly on mobile. It looks professional. Ideally, there's not too much stock image. If you hire a professional photographer to get images of yourself and your office and custom imagery, that goes a long way, not just stock. You want a strong value proposition. So why should people choose your firm? If you spend a bit of time thinking about that and making that part of the messaging on your website, that's going to go a long way to bridging the gap. Things like, easy navigation on the site. It loads super quick. People can find the information they want. It's in a format where the copy of the website is easy to digest. It's not just walls and walls and walls of text. It's easy to digest copy. It's succinct. It's to the point. It conveys and answers the 3 most important questions that any website should answer. And this is based on some stuff by Donald Miller, who wrote a book called Story Brand Marketing. Brilliant book. Highly recommend it. And the 3 things that your website must do within the first 10 seconds is answer the question of, what do we do? Just simply, what do you do? Right? Family law firm in Brisbane, personal injury law firm in Melbourne. Like, just simple. Someone needs to be able to look at it and go, I get it. That's what I need. Second thing is, how do you make your customer's life better? So you want to explain how you make your customer's life better and demonstrate that you understand the problems that they're going through. And the third thing is, what do I have to do to get the thing? So what's the next step? What's the call to action? That should be the third point. Is it book a free consult? Is it submit a form with your details and we'll get back to you to schedule a time? Whatever it is, make that clear call to action the next step. And so that's how you can bridge that trust gap fast, initially, before they've contacted you. So good reviews, clean professional website, easy to use, easy to navigate, great copy, easy to digest, and a very clear next step call to action. The cost of poor intake. So at this point, they've seen your website, they're impressed, and they've reached out to you via a contact form, or maybe let's say it's a contact form, because they can either reach out to a contact form, book an appointment directly through your website, or call up and have a chat with someone. So the first thing would be slow response times. If you take more than 5 minutes to get back to a lead that submits a contact form on your website during business hours, or even after business hours, if there's some sort of auto respond, you are 21 times less likely to convert that person into a customer. I'll say that again because it's really important. If you take more than 5 minutes to respond to an inquiry from a prospective customer or client, you are 21 times more likely or less likely to convert that person into a customer. That was a study done by the Lead Management Institute that's looked at about 18,000 leads, and they concluded that if you take more than 5 minutes, you're probably not going to get the business. And when you think about it, it makes sense, because when I'm in the frame of mind to do something and take action, I've overcome the inertia and I'm like, ready to solve this problem. I jump online, I review a bunch of sites, I put in all this effort, and then I reach out to a law firm that I see and I submit a form, and then nothing happens. So I go to another website and I read through their stuff and I submit a form on their website, and then I go to another one and I submit a form, or I try to call up and it goes to voicemail, or reception says I'll call you back, whatever. If no one responds to me within 5 minutes, there's a good chance that I'm just going to close my laptop or my phone and just move on and go about my day. And that's fine. That's what a lot of people do. The problem is then trying to get that person back on the phone, and you've probably all experienced this, is trying to get them on the phone. You call, leave a voicemail, send an email, nothing. Day goes past, 2 days go past, you call again, nothing. Oh, I couldn't get a hold of them. And it's like, yeah, I've moved on to my day, and you probably called at a terrible time. And now I'm like, and now I'm back in inertia phase where I'm like, yeah, that thing, I've got to deal with it. And anyway, I'll get back to that soon. And so people lose the lead because they're too slow to get back to people. Whereas if I'm at my computer and I submit a lead form, and then within 5 minutes you've called me, I'm like, whoa, my phone's ringing. Hello. And you're like, hey, it's such and such from law firm. And I'm like, damn, that was quick. Because that's the response I always get when I call people within 5 minutes. They're like, wow, that was quick. It demonstrates credibility. It helps also overcome that trust gap that we were talking about before, because it shows that you are super professional. You're on the ball. Like, your systems are dialed in, man. That's what you want to set up. That's where you want to get to, is a 5 minute response time. Now, that said, after hours, obviously it's going to be a little bit tricky because no one's working at 2 a.m. So there's ways you can set up autoresponders to say, hey, got your stuff. There's no one here, but we're going to give you a buzz first thing tomorrow morning. And then there's a system in place that alerts you to, hey, you got to call this person immediately when you get into the office. It's going to be a little bit harder to get that person on the phone again, but it's, as long as you can show that there is an immediate response there, or ideally offer them to schedule their own appointment so they don't have to think about it, and you both can just show up at a time when they've booked it in. But slow response time is a huge, probably the number one reason why a lot of digital marketing campaigns in legal fail. The other thing is that most people will just hire the first lawyer they speak to. So if you're the first one, if you're, you beat the others to the punch, right? You get there, you've got them on the phone, you're having a chat, you're taking them through the process, you're booking them in for a consult. By the time that next lawyer calls back, they're going to be like, you know what? It's good. I'll call you if I need you, but I'm already booked in over here with this other firm. Or they'll probably just ghost it and not answer the call. But whoever gets there first is generally going to win the business. I mean, we've all experienced that. Like, how many times have you got 3 quotes for something? I mean, most people just like, if they like the person and the first business says all the right stuff, most people just hire that business, especially when it's things like professional services, because it takes a lot for someone to come in, tell their story once, and then, get the feedback, get the cost agreements, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's a lot of investment of time, and people, they don't want to do that 2 or 3 times with 2 or 3 different lawyers. It's just the first one usually gets it. Also, missed calls. So if there's no system set up where if customers are calling in and it's just going through to voicemail, that's not ideal. You want to have a live person answer the phone, because missed calls equal missed opportunities. And then also, if someone's called in and left a message with a live person, some way to get someone in the firm to call back immediately or as soon as possible. Because if you're the principal lawyer and you're stuck working on a case, or you're stuck in a meeting and it's going to be another hour until you can get a chance to call them back, you want to have someone in place to be able to call that person before you can have an opportunity to do so. So the big point here is that when dealing with digital leads, the intake process is not just administration, it's actually sales. And most law firms or lawyers have never been taught how to sell. You guys went to law school and you got your degrees, and no one ever sat you down and went, okay, here's sales 101. Here's how you make a sale. Here's how you set up a sales funnel. Here's how you set up, a sales process, a sales call, all that kind of stuff. Like, from what I understand, and I haven't got a law degree, I have an economics degree, but from what I understand with legal is that's not taught. None of that's taught, pun intended. So it's sales. So what we're talking about here is it's a sales process and building and developing an intake/sales process for your business. So the gap here with intake that I see a lot of, because we work with law firms and we do a lot of marketing for law firms, we bring a ton of leads to law firms, and that's all pointless if the law firm doesn't have a process to be able to close that business. And so with referrals, this is why I say referrals aren't leads. With referrals are very patient. Somebody comes highly recommended to you, they're most likely willing to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to have a chat with you. And so they're patient with the process. They can put up with a bit of friction. So for example, I dealt with a firm recently and I looked at their process, and the lead is submitted, goes to the receptionist. They don't have any conversation. They basically just say, hey, what's the matter about? Yep. What's your name? Yep. Cool. What's your email address? Get the contact details. And they're like, we can book you in. It's going to be $400 or $500. So straight away, as a customer, I'm coming to this firm to have an initial chat, and I'm already being hit with a $500 bill. I then get an email with like 4 documents, things like, they want the customer or the client before the meeting to fill out all of the property schedules. So to get all the property pieces together, they want to fill out and sign off on a bunch of agreements and, detailed history of the relationship, all that kind of stuff. This is a family law firm, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of friction there. So as a new digital lead, if I get hit with all that, I'm like, damn, man, that's a lot of work. Like, I just want to talk to someone for like 10 or 15 minutes and find out, what my options are. But that doesn't work for the law firm, because the law firms sell time. And so having, someone pretty senior at the law firm sit in on a prospective client meeting, that's an expensive meeting for the law firm. And I get why most firms want to charge for that. But the problem is you can charge for that with a referral, but it's very difficult to charge that kind of fee to someone who has no idea about who you are or whether they even want to do business with you. They just want to have a chat. It would be like me as a digital marketing agency charging people for the initial consultation and expecting people to pay it. Like, no one's going to pay it. And I see that fall over quite a lot, is that firms try to have this book in first appointment. It's going to cost you a couple $100. And they wonder why the conversion rates are low. It's because generally they haven't done a good enough job bridging that trust gap that we spoke about before. But even so, like, rather than have an initial 1-hour consultation as the first thing for a new client to book in, have it more as like a 15-minute phone consult. Just a quick chat on the phone, work out what's going on. Can get an associate to do it. And that's basically triaging the lead. So you're on the call, you're getting all the pertinent information, and that call, that 15-minute consult, is essentially a sales call. It's an opportunity for the associate or the lawyer or whoever to sell that person on the 1 hour consult. So you've got the lead in, you've called them within 5 minutes, you go through the process of the booking in the 15-minute consult. They jump on the 15-minute consult, whether that's phone or Zoom or whatever, and the lawyer's taking, or the associate is taking them through the process of getting all the information. So rather than asking the person to send through the schedule of property assets, for example, get the associate to do that. Okay, so talk to me about, this is in the context of family law, talk to me about what the assets are. Let's start to get a bit of information so I can understand what's going on here. And you collect all that data, and then you sell them into a 1 hour appointment. Because, digital leads, they're not referrals. They move fast. There's no loyalty. They don't want friction. People just want to be able to click a few buttons, jump on a call, and have a couple of questions answered. And then once they're sold on this is the right thing to do, the chances of them moving ahead with you are much, much greater. So talking about that now around the initial lead when it comes in, answering the question, is your intake team trained on how to deal with digital leads versus referrals that come in? There's a couple of examples early on when we were working with law firms where we had two clients. One, over a 5-month period, we sent about 415 leads to that law firm. They closed 2 of them. Another firm, we sent 178 and they closed none of them. And I was like, what is going on here? And the more we dug, one of the firms was in an area, a capital city, where we had another firm that was selling the same services, that if we had have sent those 415 leads to our existing firm, they would have closed 120 of those clients because their conversion rate is about 30%. So they would have closed 120 versus the 2 that this other firm said. And so when we asked what was the problem with the leads, excuse me, the feedback we got was lead quality. When we dug into it, we realized that this firm was taking days to get back to people, or at least a couple of hours. So the lead was coming in, and then it wasn't until later on that they would finally get back to them. And then there was no sales process beyond that. There was no way of qualifying that lead as to whether we can help them or not really quickly. And then when they were qualified, there was no real conversation or sales process around how do we escalate that now into the next step, which is a paid consult. And how do we now have a sales conversation rather than just saying, oh yeah, 1 hour appointment, $300, would you like to go ahead? How do we structure that kind of conversation as a sales conversation? So how do we invite them in and, into an inquiry? How do we emphasize their pain points and understand what they're going through and share and reiterate that we know what they're going through, and taking them through a sales process where the obvious choice is to move forward with us as your law firm. And so we listened to call recordings and all that, and we're like, the sales process was flawed. There was no one there to be able to process those leads in a timely manner, and there was no process to be able to take those leads through to an initial consultation. So, is the intake, the people that are dealing with your digital marketing leads when they're coming through the door, are they trained on how to deal with those leads? The other thing is, are they equipped to respond within minutes, not hours? Because as I said before, if you're taking more than 5 minutes to contact the lead, you're 21 times less likely to convert it into a customer. 21 times. I'll re-emphasize that point again. So you've got to get onto those leads super quick. Is there a system in place where someone at your firm, so the lead comes in, multiple alerts go out, and someone in the firm jumps on that lead immediately and calls the person? Or is there a system in place that allows new inbound inquiries to book their own times? This is an experiment we ran with a client of ours. They get a lot of leads, and like anything with digital marketing, like 4 out of the 5 leads are probably not going to be any good. 1 out of 5, 20% conversion rate, is probably going to become a customer. The other 4, they're probably not going to become customers. 20 to 30% conversion rate is sort of standard when it comes to digital marketing leads or leads from a cold audience. Referrals, more like 80 to 90%. Most people will convert a referral because, as I said, they're highly referred and there's a lot of trust there, etc. So with digital leads, they are going to take a little bit more to convince, and 1 in 5 will go ahead with it. The other 4 won't. So is the firm equipped to be able to call those leads and triage those leads quickly? So getting back to the experiment, I lost my train of thought then. Back to the experiment, we had a firm getting a lot of leads here on the Gold Coast, actually. And one of the problems I had was like, it's taking a lot of labor to get back to these leads. Like our intake team is doing a lot of calls and hard to reach people, or they're just not the right people. They're not qualified. They're not ready to go ahead. Whatever the reasons, right? There's a lot of reasons as to why people inquire and then don't go ahead. So we're like, all right, well, let's just remove the option to submit a contact form and just say clearly on the website, hey, the next step is to book a free 15-minute consultation. That's it. If you want to take the next step with us, there's no form there's nothing to submit. It's just book in a 15-minute consultation. And so we did that, and the volume of leads fell sharply, but the quality of leads increased dramatically, because the people who are ready to go ahead and book an appointment are generally more qualified and further down the road of making a decision than those that just submit an inquiry via a contact form. So once we removed that and basically forced visitors to book an inquiry, the conversion rates on leads shot up, because now we had way more qualified leads. It relieved the burden from the admin team of having to call all these leads and qualify these leads, etc. And it just made a massive difference to the firm. And so that's one way where they didn't have capacity to be able to, call every single lead within that 5 minutes. It was just, they didn't have a lot of team. There's only one person doing it. If that person goes on lunch, or if that person was already on the phone to somebody, it's going to be more than 5 minutes, all that kind of stuff. They just didn't have the infrastructural capacity to be able to do it. Excuse me. And so we were then able to put in place a system where it allowed people to book directly in. And then lastly, does the intake team know how to turn those skeptical leads into booked appointments? And that goes back to the sales conversation that I mentioned before. Is there some kind of structured conversation or system document that shows the intake team how to have a conversation with a prospective client, and then how to book that person in once they've qualified them, book them into a 1-hour paid consultation? Because that's obviously what you want. That's the gap. So speed scripts and systems. Respond within 5 minutes. Have the scripts already written out and know exactly what to say, and train the team on what to say and how to say it. And then automate the follow-ups from, if they don't book ahead with the meeting, automate those follow-ups. So maybe it's a text or an email, having some sort of system in place that is going to ensure that no leads fall through the cracks, and that everyone's followed up, and you're staying in front of prospective clients. If they haven't already booked an appointment, a paid consult, you're staying in front of them so that no one falls through the cracks. And you want a way to be able to track all those leads as well. Speed is everything. I mean, I cannot emphasize this enough, is that fast response times equal trust. You want to bridge that trust gap. If you've done enough to bridge the trust gap to get the person to reach out to you, the next trust gap you need to bridge is getting back to them immediately to show that they've taken a chance on reaching out to you. And if you respond immediately, they're going to be validated in that chance. They're going to be like, yeah, this is the firm for me. I mean, if they get back to me that quick, they've got their shit together. Immediate contact, as I mentioned, immediate contact increases the chances of converting that lead into a customer by 21 times. So don't wait. The moment a lead hits your inbox, or the moment that you get any kind of signal that a person is interested in having a chat about your services, call them immediately. Act fast. Sense of urgency. That is going to be the biggest differentiator as to whether you win or lose, for all the things I mentioned before. If there's one thing that you take away from this today, it's that speed is everything when it comes to converting online inquiries into clients. Scripts matter. So digital leads, they're unsure, right? They don't know you from a bar of soap. So when people come in and are having a conversation with you, being able to, depending on the type of law, being able to have an empathetic conversation with them, give them clarity around what their options are, because that's what people are really seeking. they don't understand the law. That's why they're coming to you. So if you can provide some level of clarity, I mean, that could be enough for them to feel comfortable and not have to worry about moving ahead. Fine, right? That's fine. You've just demonstrated that you're the expert, and if they ever need you in future, they'll come back. But you may have just solved their issue through providing clarity. But that's what people want, is they want to know, like, this maze, this fog of law, like, where do I stand? And then if your team are empathizing, if they're providing clarity, and then they're trained to book that next steps or offer that consult, that's a massive thing that you can do to get those leads booked in and moved on down the sales process and the sales funnel. I'll share with you quickly, let me just grab this. I'll share with you quickly the scripts that we've put together based on our time working in the field. So let me share this tab here. All right. So this is a follow-up sequence here based on what we've seen. So immediate response, right? Now this is for a family lawyer. So the lead comes in, you're responding to that lead within 5 minutes. You try and call them. Just pick up the phone and call them. Dial them immediately. There's a bit of a process here where you want to double dial. So you want to call that lead twice. So you ring them once. Most people won't answer an unknown number. Immediately call them a second time, because some people will be like, oh, this number again. And about 30% of people will answer at that point. And then you want to have some kind of text message or voicemail there that just says, hey, just letting you know it's such and such from this law firm. Here's the text message here. Letting you know it's such and such. We got your inquiry. We're tempted to give you a call. If you want to have a quick chat or book a discovery call or book an initial meeting, a 15-minute free consult, click this link. This is a text message you're sending them. Click this link. We'll get us a call back on this number. They'll see that and they'll be like, oh, it's that firm. Literally, I just submitted that inquiry. If you then call 30 seconds after you send that text, there's a really good chance they're going to pick up, because they're like, oh, here's the third call from that. Oh, it's that law firm. I literally just submitted an inquiry. Hell yeah, I'll take the call, and they'll answer. So double dial, text, call. If they haven't picked up the phone, then they're probably busy or whatever, right? So, but at least you've tried. So you want to do that immediately, right? You want to attempt to call them, shoot them an email and a text message, just letting them know that, hey, got your inquiry, try to give you a buzz. Give us a call back, or just click this link and book your own free 15-minute consultation. You want to lead them towards that 15-minute consult. The next day, shoot them a quick follow-up email and just say, hey, here's how we can help with your family law matter, if it's family law or whatever it is. And just let them know you're following up, and then send them another text message. Day 3, try and call them again. Leave a voicemail, send a text message. Wait another day, and then on day 5, call them. Shoot them a quick email. Day 7, you want to just have a little soft reminder by a text. Day 10, you've tried to call, last attempt. Hey, I'm just giving you this last call. If you don't answer or get back to me, I'm going to close your file. And then final email on day 14 is just closing the loop and just saying, hey, just want to try one last time. You've reached out to us, haven't heard back. We've tried to reach you multiple times. We're going to close your file for now. If you want to chat, call us or have this link. That's a process that you can automate as well. You can have all that running in the background. And the moment that person either answers, responds via text, or responds via email, it'll cut wherever it is in the process, and then you can just manually take over. So it's not sending follow-ups automatically after that. That's a quick 14-day process of following up a lead. Now, some pushback I get at this point is like, oh, but I don't want to seem too salesy. I don't want to seem like I'm following up and spamming them and rah. It's like, who cares what they think? They've reached out to you to contact you. Just show that you're a professional. Show that you have a process in place that can follow those leads up in a timely manner, and that you're not letting them fall through the cracks. Because if you can demonstrate, if you run that sales process, and if they don't get back to you after 14 days, well, what do you do? But generally, most people will at least say, hey, stop bothering me. I'm done. At which point you go, yep, no problem at all. Here if you need us. Or they'll actually go, yeah, sorry about that. I was just being super busy. Thanks so much for reaching out. I get that so often. Thank you so much for following up. Have a system in place that can deliver that, and you'll see massive results. This is sort of leads on to the next slide here that I was just talking about. You want to be able to automate that first touch if you can, especially when it's out of hours. So you want to have some way of, when they've reached out to you, bam, instantly, hey, we got your message. Someone's about to give you a call in a minute. Have some kind of system or CRM that's going to track the journey of that lead so that no one falls through the cracks. You also want to monitor response time. So there are ways that you can set up a system to monitor how quickly it's taking your team to make the first call or reach out for the first contact. The other thing is, sending those follow-up reminders so that no leads slipping through the cracks over a 14-day period, and just reviewing and refining those scripts. So there's a lot of stuff, like, for example, if your team are calling the lead, you can record those calls. There's stuff out there that can, if you don't want to record them, you can have AI sit on the call and take automatic notes, so that you can be reviewing and refining what your team is saying to prospective clients. Because if you're monitoring the response times and the conversion rates and all that kind of stuff, and you notice that they're not where you want them to be, chances are it's probably the way that your team are dealing with the follow-up process. Or at least you want to be able to eliminate that as one of the issues. So having regular reviews and refining your scripts is going to help convert those leads as well. So what are the metrics that matter? What should you be tracking, in my opinion? What should you be tracking when it comes to your digital marketing? So the first thing is the cost per lead. How much is it actually costing us to get a lead? It's a simple equation. How much did you spend on marketing divided by how many leads you got from that marketing? So if you spent $10,000 and you got back 10 leads, then it costs you $1,000 a lead. That's not good. If you got back, say, 100 leads for that 10 grand investment, then it's $100 cost per lead. That's good. 100 to 150 bucks per lead is a good metric to aim for. Lead response times. How long is it taking your team to reach out? There's almost a direct correlation between how quickly your team reaches out to how many initial consults are booked. You want to track those initial consults. How many initial consults are we booking? And how many leads did we get? That's going to give you your lead to book consult conversion rate. You want to have that ideally at around about 50%, because chances are when they're reaching out, half the leads are going to be no good. They're just going to be like, tire kicker, legal aid, waste of time, like whatever it is. Or we don't, if you do legal aid, great. If you don't, I get a lot of pushback from clients saying we don't want to deal with legal aid. You can quickly triage and qualify those leads in the initial 15-minute call. And so, you want to have a look at the percentage of leads that are coming in versus the percentage of those that are going through to a paid consult. You want to then have a look at booked consult. So that's a paid consult, not the 15-minute free consult. Booked consult to new client conversion rates. How many of those consults are we actually converting? 20 to 30% is ideal. 1 in 3 is kind of what you aim for. And then what's the cost to acquire a client? How much is it actually costing us? So if we invested the $10,000 and we got, let's say, 30 new clients from that $10,000, then we've got a cost per acquisition of customer of about $330. That's great. If it's a family lawyer, that's fantastic. If it's conveyancing, maybe not. So marketing without intake or a proper intake system equals burning cash. So you could have the best marketing in the world. And I've seen this a lot because, before we learned to work with clients and law firms on developing their intake system, we would go to market and we're great at what we do, right? We are, I'm going to say, the best agency in Australia when it comes to law firm marketing. So much so that we offer money back guarantees on our marketing. That's how good it is. Just tooting our own horn. What we found was that we would do great marketing for them, drive tons of leads to the business, and then those leads wouldn't convert. And when we looked at why, it's back to those things that I mentioned. There's just a poor intake system. So it's a complete waste of money. If you're like going to market and running ads for your business to try and generate new leads without having some kind of intake system dialed in, is a waste of money. You're just going to burn through cash if you don't have the infrastructure set up to be able to convert leads into new clients. And the mentality that I see most lawyers go to market with is, we'll just run the same system that we run right now for our referrals. Massive mistake. You want to align your intake process with the ad strategy. So if you go on Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, whatever it is, when you're generating those leads, you want to make sure the intake process aligns with those leads. Don't treat those leads the same way you treat referrals, and vice versa. You probably don't need to treat referrals the same way that you treat the digital leads. With referrals, you can fast forward that process because they're already pre-sold. You definitely want to train the team to handle those leads differently, and you want to track every lead from first contact to conversion so you can have some data to understand where the gaps are. All right, this wraps it up. So key takeaways: referrals aren't leads. Remember that. Referrals aren't leads. Digital leads, that is leads you get from your online marketing, they need speed, trust, and systems. So you need to get back to people immediately. You need to be able to bridge the trust gap, and you need to have systems in place to be able to lead those people along a journey to becoming a client. Your intake process is just as important as your ads and the copy and everything that you put out at the front end in your marketing. Your sales process / intake process is just as important. It's the other 50% of successful marketing, is being able to convert the leads into customers. Winning the lead's just the first step. So getting the person to come to you, that's step one. How you handle that lead determines if they become a client or not. And the firms that grow the fastest are the ones that master both the marketing and the intake, based on my experience. Next step. So here's our pitch, call to action. If you're ready to improve your intake, if you want to have a professional firm look at how you're currently dealing with inbound digital leads, maybe you don't even have a digital marketing thing in place, that's fine. If you would like us to audit your current process, we offer a free intake audit. So we'll have a look at and essentially mystery shop the business and just see where the gaps are in your process. Just reach out to us. Go to yomedia.com.au. Quick pitch. Just go to our website, click this book free strategy call, and you can just book in with myself or one of my team, and we'll be able to schedule your free intake audit to work out where those gaps are and essentially put together a plan that is going to get more clients and help you grow your firm. So that's it. Next is questions. So we've got a few people on the webinar here. Let's pull up the chat and let's have a look at some questions. All right. First question. How do we balance speed with quality when following up without sounding desperate? Oh, okay. So how do you, this goes back to that point I said about people like, this is so funny, people that don't want to sound salesy. So you don't want to sound desperate. I would challenge that and say, I think that if you think you're sounding desperate, you're just projecting. You don't sound desperate. Most people aren't even thinking about you. If someone's reached out to you and inquired and you run through the 14-day script like I showed you before, like this thing here, this isn't desperation. This is professionalism. Like if you hit every one of these contact points over 14 days, and there's a few of them, you're just going to demonstrate to that client or that person that you are a professional law firm that is never going to leave a lead behind. And so you're not going to sound desperate. You're just going to look professional. You're going to look so much more professional than every other person that stops after this point here. Phone call and email. Most law firms don't even text. They just try to call, shoot an email. That's it. That's the extent of the follow-up. So if you're doing everything else after this over 14 days, you're just going to look professional. What's the next one? Need some water. What is a realistic conversion rate we should aim for with digital leads? What's a realistic conversion rate? I would say 20 to 30%. So 1 in 5, 1 in 3 people who contact you should convert into a customer. Ideally, when you first start out, it's probably going to be 1 in 5. So 4 tire kickers, 1 good client. Assuming that you're hitting all those metrics before, you're getting back to them immediately, you're running through the 14-day follow-up plan, all that kind of stuff, then you'll get 20%. If you don't do any of that, you might just end up like that client who got no business for 170 odd leads, no business, or 415 leads and they got 2 new clients. Yeah, you got to be running through the process. And if you do it right, 1 in 5 to 1 in 3, eventually you get to 1 in 3. How do we handle leads who aren't ready to book right away? Should we nurture them differently? Yeah, okay. So I would say that's an unqualified lead at that point. If you've reached out to them, you got them on the phone and they're just like, yeah, thanks for that, I'm just not ready to book. Then they're not ready to book. Just let them go. Move on to the next one. You can nurture them. When you say nurture, most people just think of like email nurturing, and that's great. You can email nurture people. I generally find with professional services, particularly law, is, unless it's business, nurturing campaigns work pretty well with business clients. But consumer clients, they're probably just going to unsubscribe. You can keep nurturing them depending on what type of business you have and law firm that you have. But I wouldn't nurture them differently per se. I would just say leads, you offer them an appointment. If they don't take up the appointment, then they don't take up the appointment. And if you want to stick them in a nurture sequence where they'll get regular newsletters or emails or whatever with valuable information, then do that. Otherwise, just move on to the next one. There's no shortage of leads and people looking for legal services. What's the next one? How do we know if our intake process is actually the problem and not the quality of the leads? Great question. Lead quality is a big issue, right? I get it all the time. Oh, the leads were shit. The lead quality is no good. I would say that the quality of the lead is dependent on you as the business. So when you think about 4 tire kickers, 1 person will end up being a client. So for every 5 leads, you're probably going to get 1 client if you run through the system properly. That's the quality of the lead. So yeah, the overwhelming majority of the digital leads that come through are probably not going to be a client. Is that a problem with quality? No, it's just the game. That's the nature of the game, is that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 will go ahead at the start. You could probably get that up to like 1 in 3 when you become like ninja level conversion optimization. But lead quality is all dependent on you. The quality of a lead decays massively after 5 minutes. So it's like the lead is at its highest quality within the first 5 minutes and then it falls off a cliff, right? And so beyond an hour, like it's very little chance you're going to convert that person. They're probably already moved on to another firm who go back to them quicker. So lead quality, when it comes to quality of leads, if it's genuine, if they're genuine inquiries, if those leads are coming to you saying, hey, I'm interested in your particular legal services, then that's a quality lead. And it's going to decay real quick. Like they're not going to answer the phone if you don't get back to them within 5 minutes. Chances are they're not going to pick up the phone, right? So lead quality is on you. You're the one responsible for lead quality, and lead quality is determined by speed to contact. The quicker you are, the better the quality. The slower you are, the shitter the lead. So you're in charge of quality, not your marketing. Unless you are getting leads that are inquiring about services you don't provide, then something's off. Like, why are those people inquiring? If you're a family law firm, for example, or if you're an employment lawyer, then all of your marketing should be talking about employment law or family law. And we provide these family law services. And if someone comes to you and says, hey, I need a contract reviewed for this new lease on a building, you're like, what? Why did you call us? Maybe your messaging in your ads was too generic. I don't know. But generally, lead quality is on you. You're responsible for the quality of the lead, and it comes down to how quickly you get back to them. All right, one more question. What's the best way to align our intake team with our marketing team so they're working together and not in silos? Yeah, look, that's a pretty common one, but intake team, most law firms don't have a sales team. Their intake team consists of either the receptionist or the associate or someone junior on the team, and that's essentially the intake team. So how do you get them on the same page with the marketing team? And generally, your marketing team's probably going to be an agency, or maybe you're doing it yourself. You want to have some way of checking out the quality of leads. So, for example, if I show you our lead intake form, our intake tracking system, this is all dummy data that I'm showing you, by the way. So none of this is real data. Any relevance to real people is purely coincidental because these numbers are all randomly generated. But this is essentially what we build for our clients to help them track all of their leads. So every time someone submits a contact form on one of our clients' website, it goes to their inbox, it goes to their CRM, but it also ends up here because we want a way of just tracking on one page all the leads that come in. So you're going to get, the date, the names, email, contact details, the message, but then we're also going to tell you where that lead came from. Was it your Google ad campaign through paid search? Maybe it was your SEO from organic search. Maybe it was your social media from Facebook. We want to know what campaign generated the lead. If it came through a search engine, what keyword did that person search? What page did they land on and convert on? And what form did they fill out? And then this here is what the intake team at our law firms manage, is what happened to that lead when it came in. So, was it a wrong fit? Maybe you couldn't get in touch with them. They didn't respond. Maybe they booked in for their first meeting and were going through the process, or maybe it's actually ended up in an open file. And if it's an open file, the estimated value is something our clients end up just, we reckon this matter is going to generate X, Y, Z in revenue. And so over time, we can start to work out, well, if a lot of these leads are the wrong fit, we know we've got a lot of work to do around the marketing campaign, because why are we attracting clients that are the wrong fit? Or if we're getting a lot of do not respond, then we can look at, well, are you calling these leads immediately? Like, what's happening with the response times? Because eventually we want, one other thing is all the initial inbound calls to the business we track as well. So anytime someone calls one of our clients through their website, we track that call. So we can tell, we record the phone call. So we tell who called, record the phone call so our clients can log into this spreadsheet, hit a button and listen back to the call. We want to know, where did they come from? If it was Google, was it paid or organic, or was it social media? What keyword did they search? What page did they call from? Where were they? And again, open file, what happened to that lead? What's the status of that lead? And so we're tracking all of this stuff so that then we can roll it all up into a dashboard that shows us things like, what's our lead conversion rate? What's our sales conversion rate? What's our cost to acquire a customer? What's our cost per lead? And we can understand those metrics, because if some of those metrics are off, like if this here is our target of 30% and we're not hitting that, like our average is 28%. I mean, 28%, you're pretty much hitting it. But if we were consistently at 20% and we're trying to target 30%, well, we need to look at what's going on there. Or if our cost per lead is significantly higher than what we've targeted. So we targeted in this instance $177. Again, this is all dummy data. But let's say our target cost per lead is $177 based on the client's budget, and we're coming in 140. Happy days. We're generating leads, below our target cost per lead. But if that number starts to creep up to like 250, well, I want to know that, and I want to know pretty quick so I can work out what's happening there. So there are signals and things that we build to be able to track our client campaigns. Like, this is exactly what our clients get. We have signals in place to be able to track all this stuff so that we can tell whether things are on track or off track. And that's something that your business needs, is in order to determine what's working and what's not, we need a system in place to be able to track all this stuff. So that's it. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, if you want us to audit your current intake process, or you want to have a chat about how we can generate more leads for your law firm, simply reach out via our website, book in a consultation, and look forward to chatting with you soon. Feel free to hit me up with any other questions. Shoot me an email, nathan@yomedia.com.au. Shoot me an email, and happy to answer any further questions that you all have. Thanks for your time, and we'll chat again soon. Cheers.